everybody, hope you're doing well. This is the start of week 5 here in Survey of Math for the 4th marking period. This video will take you through the topic of scatter plots. This is actually going to be the last video for Unit 5, and I decided to kind of combine what I thought was needed in one video for this week. So this will be the only thing you'll have to worry about for week 5. There won't be a second video lesson, a second set of IXLs, etc. This is all you're going to have to worry about for this week. So we're going to do a quick review of scatter plots here. Not a ton that I'm going to go over here because you've seen these things, I imagine, a bazillion times. So we're just going to review some basics. So scatter plot, what it is in short, it's a graph that has a whole bunch of points connected to some sort of data collection, and they typically follow some sort of trend. You can see the 3 examples of just some random scatter plots that are found below. Okay, they either... I shouldn't say either. They have one of 3 real classifications of trends. If you get into statistics, you go a little bit deeper into this, but for our purposes here, they trend in 3 ways. You have what is considered a negative trend or a negative correlation, where as you look at the graph from left to right, the points generally go in a downward direction. To the other extreme, where if they go from left to right in an upward direction, they have a positive correlation. If the points just seem randomly scattered, like you see in the middle, and you can't really tell if they go positive or negatively, we say that they have relatively no correlation. We don't say truly no correlation, so without the word relatively, I should say, because there is some sort of connection between your data points in 99.9% of all cases, so it's just very, very minimal. So when they're scattered like that, we're going to use the phrase relatively none. You see these numbers underneath. You've heard of the correlation coefficient. Honestly, I'm not even going to worry too much about that because unless you take statistics, you won't really do anything with that. But it's basically a mathematical number that's associated with how close the points are together. The closer they are going negatively, making that straight line, is the closer they have a coefficient of -1. The closer they are positively going upward, making that straight line, is the closer they approach 1. The more they're scattered apart, the closer they approach 0. So again, not something I need you to worry about. I just need you to know basically if they're going downward, negative trend. If they're going upward, it's positive. If they're kind of scattered all over the place, there's relatively no correlation. One of the other things about scatter plots is being able to spot outliers, which visually should be a very easy thing to do. Typically, a scatter plot will have all kinds of data points that, for the most part, will follow a trend, but as always if you're actually collecting data, it doesn't always fall into line. So if I give you a couple of graphs here, I think it's pretty, hopefully, obvious to see where the outliers would be. You have a bunch of these red dots that kind of follow a really nice trend, and then you have this blue dot here in each of these graphs, the ones that I just circled here real big. Those are considered outliers because, again, they don't really follow the trend. Yes, it's part of your graph, it is part of your data collection, but they just don't follow the trend. So I know one of the IXLs I give you, and this is something that, again, if you take a stats class, you get into way more specifically, but really just being able to visually point out where the outliers are, it should be pretty easy, hopefully, to see which one doesn't quite fall in line with the rest of the points. The other thing I want to briefly go over is if I give you a scatter plot and I wanted to use it to make predictions. That's ultimately what scatter plots and trend plots are used for, is to try to make predictions of, okay, if this is how all the data laid out and we threw in an extra data point here, where would it roughly fall? So, a couple of just very quick questions here. I just pulled 2 random scatter plots. The first one here says if x equals 8, y could be what? And what we wanted to assume is that it falls in line with the trend. We don't know exactly what y could be because we don't have an equation for a line of best fit or a line of regression or any of those sorts of things. All we're doing is making a prediction. So I give you 3 options here. If x equals 8, y could be 120, 40, or 225. Well, if I have it at where x equals 8 and I say y is 120, this is roughly where I would be, where I'm putting this x. That looks like that falls in line with my data. So I would more than likely lean towards y should be about 120. Now, if I were to try this, if x equals 8, y should be 40. This is roughly where I would be. Now, I wouldn't say that's too far off, but it definitely seems to fall more out of line. Oh, my apologies, I marked the wrong point. Well, now definitely more out of line with the points that I had there. My apologies there. Make sure you actually know your coordinates. But at any rate, you can clearly see that it's not really in line with the rest of the points, and it kind of seems off the path there. So that would not probably be a good prediction. 225 is the Y value, so again, that would be up here. That seems to be even further away from the rest of my trending points. So logical prediction, if x equals 8, y being 120 is the most logical prediction out of the options given. If I tell you the y value is 6, x could be 0, 4, or 11. So if I say y is 6, x is 0, so here I am making that blue x, that doesn't seem to fall in line with the trend, since 0 doesn't seem to make any sense there. If y is 6, x is 4, that seems to fall in line pretty nicely with the rest of my points. So for right now, I'm going to say, okay, the x value could be 4. And if y is 6, x is 11, I'm all the way off on the right side of the graph. That doesn't really seem to fall in line. Now, again, that doesn't necessarily mean it couldn't be those numbers if I'm just doing data collection. Obviously, outliers can exist, but if I'm using a scatter plot to make a reasonable prediction, I want to pick the value that best lines up with the rest of the points given. So one of the IXLs basically asks a series of questions with that. It's just making sure that you can, again, put points in spots that fall in line with the rest of the trend. So ultimately, that's the short version here of what I want you to do with scatter plots. We could talk about lines of best fit and things like that, but we've already gone over how to do equation writing now a bunch of times, and honestly, I don't see much of a need to keep going over it over and over again. So, like I said at the top of the video, this is the only video I'm going to give you for this week, so there is no second lesson. I know a couple of you that stay on top of this stuff kind of have just been blasting through these, which is great. These two IXLs should be very quick for you to complete. Should not take you very much time at all. We're still in level K. KK, so it's a double K. It's the very last topic in level K. KK8, KK9, take them both to an 80. And again, I think these should be very quick here, hopefully for all of you. Again, some of you are on top of this stuff. We're mostly on top of it. If there's anything, again, that you're short on, say I put a score in, you got like a 51 on one of the topics, and I put in a 5.1 in the grade book. Use some time this week if you have the extra time, since I'm giving you an extra catch-up day. Use it to get that up to an 80. Again, all the points you can get here, use this again. This class should be one of the easier grades you should be getting, because ultimately, as long as you work to that 80, you should be getting 100% across the board. So take advantage of that extra day I'm giving you here. Those of you that are really far behind, please start trying to catch up here. We are already in the month of May, so grades will be due here in just a few weeks. The year will be over, and you don't want to have a poor percentage because you've been slacking on this. So please make sure you're getting caught up. If you have any questions on anything, concerned about your grades, etc., send me a message on Schoology, shoot me an email, or stop by my office hours on Zoom. I'll be more than happy to help you out. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you next time.